Ladies and gentlemen, the official party will arrive momentarily. Please find a seat. As a reminder, ensure your electronic devices are silenced and that all security badges are removed. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we give special recognition to Lieutenant Commander Jake Candelaria and his family on the occasion of his retirement from the United States Navy. Officiating today's ceremony is Colonel Paul Riley, Chief of Europe Division at the Directorate for Policy, Strategy, Partnering, and Capabilities at United States European Command. The official party will be covered, but all others in uniform can remain uncovered. Bosun, post aside, boys.
Clap, let's say, jump. Ready, face. Ready, step.
Please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the playing of our national anthem and the invocation. Time orderly, strike 4 bells. Colonel, United States Army, arriving. Time orderly, strike 2 bells. Lieutenant Commander, United States Navy, arriving. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll hear musical introductions of the French, Italian, and German national anthems before the national anthem of the United States of America to honor the different foreign countries in which Lieutenant Commander Candelaria was stationed during his career. Please remain standing. Commander Joe Femina will now offer the invocation.
Good morning. I invite you to pray with me. Heavenly Father, upon all present here today, and as we celebrate the retirement of Jake and all who have helped him along this way, we ask your blessings and presence here on this special day. With humble awareness of our great need, we look always to you, O Lord, that everything we do may begin with your help. continue with your gracious assistance, and in you come to a holy end. We acknowledge before you the sacrifice made by his children, Rebecca, Sophia, Brianna, and Dominic. Give them comfort in the changes that lie ahead and happiness in the next chapter of their lives. We also praise you in thanksgiving for Jake's family, especially his parents, Mario and Francis, and all his family and friends that have offered Jake and his girls encouragement, love, and support, allowing him to serve faithfully and with vigor through the many years. We pray also that you send your divine blessing upon all our military men and women, especially those deployed at this moment and in harm's way. Let all our words and actions this day and every day be for your greater glory. We ask these things in your most holy name. Amen.
Bosun, post aside, boys.
Ready, stand. Ready, face. Side, pose.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Today we pay tribute to Lieutenant Commander Jake Candelaria, assigned to the Southeast Europe Branch of the United States European Command, J58 Directorate Europe Division, on the occasion of his retirement from the United States Navy. Lieutenant Commander Candelaria is closing out a 20-year military career of dedicated and faithful service to the United States Navy and to his country. Equally important, we honor his 4 daughters, Rebecca and Sophia, who are in college and could not be here today, and Brianna and Dominic, who have sacrificed and supported Jake throughout his career, rendering loyal service to their father, to the United States Navy, and to our great country. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our presiding officer, Colonel Paul Riley, Chief of Europe Division, the United States European Command, J58 Directorate.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this huge turnout on Jake's special day. First, I would like to thank our bosses, General Hall and General Deskins, for being here. I'd also like to welcome Jake's invited guests, Joe and Soraya Femino, Adam and Hisami Bergeron, Tanya and Cheris Baldwin, and most importantly, I would like to welcome Jake's loving family, represented by his 2 younger daughters, Brianna and Dominic. Thank you, ladies, for being here. And the rest of his family, who will be watching today by video, I'm sure. I would like to welcome his 2 older daughters, the womb mates, fraternal twins who are in their first year of college in the States, both on opposite ends of the United States, Rebecca in Florida and Sophia in New Mexico. Also watching will be his close friends and neighbors, Lee and Vonnie, who during Jake's childhood were like additional mothers to him. And finally, a special welcome to Jake's younger brother Stephen and his loving parents, Mario and Francis, watching from Albuquerque. This is a special day, an important day for Jake and his family, and for all the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that have had the pleasure of serving alongside Lieutenant Commander Jacob Candelaria. Our purpose today is to celebrate Jake's 20 years of exemplary service and sacrifice to his country, and to say thank you to him and his family for their contributions to our country's, and indeed the world's, safety and freedom. Now, I could go on through the entire chronology of Jake's career, telling you about every surface warfare officer job on every ship that he's ever performed. but I think that that is excellently portrayed in the program that you have in front of you. I urge you to read it, because it tells quite a story of a very talented officer. What I think I would rather do today is to explain to Jake and to his family why we love and respect their son, brother, and father so much, and why we are so appreciative of his commitment and service to the United States for these past 20 years. Girls, your father possesses character traits and values that have made him a great naval officer and friend to so many people. As Jake's boss, I have had the opportunity to watch him for the last 2 years, and also the privilege of being able to talk to his parents, his friends, and his shipmates from over the years. I see Jake's most important traits as honest work and respect, perseverance and cheerfulness, dedication and loyalty, and the priority that he gives to his faith in God and the welfare of his family. Let me take a few moments to talk about the origins of Jake's character. Jacob Candelaria was born to Mario and Frances Candelaria in one of the small mountain villages above Albuquerque, New Mexico. Frances was a school secretary, and Mario was a welder, carpenter, and electrician. He worked mostly at the Sandia National Laboratories, where they develop, engineer, and test the non-nuclear components of nuclear weapons. Pretty serious business, if you ask me. They were in their late teens and early 20s when they had kids. And they look back on that time, and they think about how young their kids were and how young they were, and they figure that they all grew up together, the four of them. His parents were strict but loving. They kept Jake and Stephen busy with chores, and Mario taught his sons how to do everything. Together they worked on houses and cars. The boys knew how to do landings, stairs, and welding, and the boys helped their parents make additions to the house, doing the framing, roofs, wiring, and plumbing. Frances told me we did it all on our own with the help of the boys. And the same went for cars. They were right there with me. And so were their friends, Mario remembers. Together, Jake's mom and dad instilled the values of honest work and respect, and dedication and loyalty in their sons. We had good jobs. You have to work. You have to be honest. Have an honest life. Be truthful to others, Frances said. And through their example and teaching, Mario and Frances also taught the boys to love God and rely on Him in all things. Jake, we have all seen the responsibility that you take for your assigned missions. And I think this is where it developed. In addition to an appreciation for honest work, Jake also gained the quality of perseverance and cheerfulness during his upbringing. And I believe this may be the most renowned part of Jake's character. Let me tell you about Jake's experience at the Naval Academy. In 1992, Jake graduates from high school and heads to the Naval Academy Prep School, NAPS, in Newport, Rhode Island, where he spends a year before his induction into the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis. Now, Jake was a good student in high school. He had a 3.8 GPA. But the Naval Academy was tough academically, and it was even more tough if you were an engineering major. So within about 6 months, with no small influence from the Tom Clancy novels that he'd been reading in the early 90s, Jake chose a new heading for himself to pursue the much more achievable major of political science. And undoubtedly, that was the move that would later lead Jake to apply for the Navy's new FAO program years later. But poli-sci at Annapolis ain't no cakewalk either, because at Annapolis, every degree is a Bachelor of Science. And that means you have to take calculus and chemistry. but it was tough, and thanks to his own drive and the structure and discipline of the academy, Jake persevered and graduated. It was Jake's best friend and roommate at Annapolis, Woodrow Pete Nesbitt, who hung by Jake during those tough academy years. And Pete became like a brother to Jake. And it is here where I must give a shout out to Pete's dad, Woody Sr., and a man named Fat Albert. Woody Sr. was a retired Army officer, Major Woodrow Nesbitt. He'd served 3 tours in Vietnam as a soldier. When his son started at Annapolis, he found out that an old war buddy of his, Fat Albert, had a house in the local area. So over the 4 years in the academy, Jake and Pete would spend what free time they could get at Fat Albert's, cooking out and listening to stories of camaraderie and the Vietnam War. Whenever Jake would come over, Fat Albert would say, "Jake, go get me a beer. And while you're at it, go get one for yourself." Fat Albert's became the boys' home away from home. Oh, and did I mention he had a pool? And finally, Pete's dad brought a brand new Army officer's service dress uniform and administered the officer's oath to Pete and Jake on graduation day, 23 May 1997. It is not lost on me, by the way, that Jake was commissioned by an Army officer and is being retired by an Army officer. Just saying. By the way, despite Navy's recent dominance in football, Jake has never physically been present for a Navy win over Army. And he is, hence, scarred for life. When you read the story of Jake's career in the program, under those 2 pictures of that dashing and handsome sailor, you will note that all of his time at sea was spent aboard amphibious ships. The Duluth, the Bonhomme Richard, the Bella Wood, and finally the French Mistral. Jake always liked the amphibious mission of the Navy. He liked working with the Marines, he liked the variety of operations, and he liked the operations like humanitarian assistance, medical, or non-combatant evacuation. Because in those, you work with populations that live in the coastal areas of the world. You work with the human beings. That's what life was like on the Bella Wood. They deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom, put the Marines ashore, and took on other troopers for short R&Rs. It was on the Bella Wood, when Jake was serving as a department head and as the combat systems officer in charge of the ship's missiles and guns, that his department and the ship won the coveted Battle E, which goes to the #1 ship of its class. On the Bella Wood, Jake served alongside his fellow department head, Lieutenant Commander Al Davis, who handled all of the command and control and communications and computer systems on board. Al told me that Jake always had a smile on his face. He was not only a great officer to work with, but also a great Liberty buddy. In fact, this one time in Singapore, no, it's not that kind of story. So Al and Jake and another guy, they come upon this amusement park ride that Al described to me as looking like one of those Wile E. Coyote Acme contraptions from the Roadrunner cartoons. It was a slingshot that fired from 100 feet up in the air and then kept you in a cradle, and you bounced back and forth between the earth and the heavens until it finally came to a stop. So after some liquid courage, Jake got in this thing and got launched by it, finally returning to Earth looking very green in the face. According to Al, that kind of spirit was par for the course for Jake. He was always laughing and great for the morale of the ship. After this assignment in 2006, Jake became a Foreign Area Officer. and graduated from the DLI French course in 2007. And in April of 2008, he got to go on a 2-year surface warfare officer exchange in Toulon, France, aboard the French ship Mistral. I can't think of a better FAO training experience for a sailor. Just imagine moving your family to a French port city, joining a ship's crew, a French ship's crew, doing your exact specialty, surface warfare officer on an amphibious ship, and speaking French for 2 years as you perform those duties. And the thing that's amazing about this story is that the French captain put Jake in charge of the navigation of the ship and all of the deck operations. This ship is a jewel in the French Navy. This ship is a symbol of French national pride. And it's amazing for me to think that when most sea captains get relieved for putting their vessel, for running their vessel aground, that they put this American in charge of navigation. So it's no minor feat, and it's an incredible testament to the trust that Jake obviously gained. It was aboard the Mistral that Jake and his French shipmates were called into action for a search and recovery mission at the site of the crash of Air France Flight 4447 off the coast of Brazil. As part of his duties as deck officer, Jake led all small boat operations for the recovery of bodies and debris. It was a somber mission that lasted almost 4 weeks. Also during that tour, Jake helped the Mistral-class ships figure out how to support and bed down U.S. Navy hovercraft, which incredibly increased interoperability between our two navies. This plum FAO training assignment was not without its tricky international relations moments for the young sailor diplomat working with the French Navy. Jake was the navigator that took the Mistral up to St. Petersburg to let the Russians see it, and maybe buy others like it. First, the French ship captain gave Jake the option to opt out of the mission, and Jake refused, saying this was the job the U.S. Navy had sent him to do. Second, when the French crew suggested he take off the U.S. flag from his French sea suit, he refused, despite the many questions and awkward looks that this might evoke from the Russian hosts. And finally, one day out at sea, on the 4th of July, while Jake was doing PT on deck, and they played the French national anthem, next came, blaring from the speakers, the Star-Spangled Banner. So Jake dutifully turned to the direction where he thought the United States lay, rendered honors, and his French shipmates smiled and watched on. And then upon returning to his quarters, he found that down the hall of his room was hanging a huge American flag, for which Jake was grateful. And at his feet, at his door, was a British flag, which Jake smartly declined to step on and picked up off the ground. All of Jake's character traits, I believe, came from the example that his parents set and from the faith and reliance on God that they taught him. It is upon this bedrock that Jake has built his life. And it is this foundation that enabled him to have this successful Navy career in life, giving him the perseverance and cheerfulness to overcome obstacles and inspire others, and teaching him the dedication and loyalty to do what needed to be done for the country, family, and friends he loves. Finally, I would like to talk about the man that Jake has been at home. Since his first days as an ensign, Jake has been a family man, a father of twin daughters within a month of graduation, and then 2 more daughters as time went on. If you can picture this, at graduation, the mother of Jake's twins was sitting at graduation in a wheelchair because of the advanced stage of pregnancy she was in. And Jake, as he was collecting up his diploma from Vice President Al Gore, put up two fingers, sort of like this, but what it signified was that twins were on the way. And he has kept the welfare of his family at the forefront of his mind and his decision-making. Al Davis, Jake's buddy from the Belleau Wood, explained it to me nicely. Jake's got his priorities right, he said. We all love the service, but your family is there for the rest of your life. And Jake, Rebecca, Sophia, Brianna, and Dominic, now begins the rest of your life. Thank you for your service and sacrifices, fair winds and following seas.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the publishing of the orders. Attention to orders. Citation to accompany the award of the Defense Meritorious Service Medal to Jacob Candelaria. Lieutenant Commander Jacob Candelaria, United States Navy, distinguished himself by exceptionally meritorious service as Political Military Affairs Officer, Europe Division, Director of Policy, Strategy, Plans, Partnering, and Capabilities, Headquarters, United States European Command, from 30 June 2013 to 30 June 2016. During this period, Lieutenant Commander Candelaria's decisive and steadfast leadership in a dynamic political military environment directly contributed to advancing the United States' strategic interests in Europe. Through astute management of security assistance programs and bilateral engagements, Lieutenant Commander Candelaria strengthened our partnerships in Southeast Europe. His expertise guided the command's relationships with critical allies and partners in a volatile region and directly contributed to the realization of numerous security policy goals, including Slovenia's creation of a North Atlantic Treaty Organization's Center of Excellence Mountain Warfare School. The distinctive accomplishments of Lieutenant Commander Candelaria culminate a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Navy, and the Department of Defense. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the official retirement of Lieutenant Commander Jake Candelaria. Attention to orders. Department of the Navy, Bureau of Personnel Order number 0326, dated 1 February 2016. In view of your scheduled retirement to be effective 1 July 2016, on 1 July you will be transferred to the retired list with the grade of Lieutenant Commander and with retired pay of Lieutenant Commander pursuant to provision of Title 10 U.S. Code, Section 6323. When directed, detach on 30 June 2016 and proceed to home of selection. Regard relieved of all active duty effective at 2400 on date of detachment. Your dedicated service to the Navy and your country is deeply appreciated. May you enjoy every success and happiness in the future. Signed, David F. Steindl, Rear Admiral, U.S. Navy, Commander, Navy Personnel Command. Certificate of Appreciation. For service in the Armed Forces of the United States of America, Lieutenant Commander Jacob Candelaria, I extend to you my personal thanks and the sincere appreciation of the grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You've helped maintain the security of the nation during a critical time in its history with the devotion to duty and the spirit of sacrifice